Put it up. Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin, and I'm a third-year mental health student, soon to qualify in September. It's a privilege to be asked to share my experience with the Toolkit SAM, the two-question spiritual assessment model. Basically, two questions. What's the most important thing for you right now? And what can I do, or what can we do to help? It's a fantastic tool I found in practice, and I've also tried to incorporate it into my own repertoire in my personal life and my work life. Just a little bit of background. During nurse training, we are taught about pharmacology, law and ethics, but underpinning it is the therapeutic relationship. And the basis of that is good communication between ourselves and patients. It's essential, and anything that can enhance communication between ourselves has to be a massive positive. And having seen the Toolkit SAM in practice and used it, it is fantastic. How I came into contact with the Toolkit SAM was about 18 months ago. Having listened to a lecture by Linda regarding spirituality and nursing, it was also mentioned during the lecture that spirituality could become a topic for exploration for our dissertations. Well, up until that point, I was thinking, borderline personality disorder, dementia, psychosis, hallucinations. When I heard Linda talk about spirituality, and she showed the evidence base behind spirituality and its efficacy, that reinforced my own lived experience around people and through myself, and seeing how it can be used for resilience and bouncing back from tragedies and overcoming all sorts of obstacles. During my life, I've become involved with Lourdes in France, and when I first went there, it was remarkable how people with very life-limiting conditions, some were terminally ill, some were children and got their lives in front of them with these conditions, how sort of in good spirits they were. And I thought, what are they doing, which I'm not? And like Linda Ross explained in a lecture about spirituality and its efficacy, so I decided to choose it as a dissertation topic. When I approached my supervisor, who was a humanist, he's a lovely man, he's a humanist, and I mentioned spirituality as a topic, he was mortified. And his face was a picture. However, I persevered, and I succeeded in a reasonable result in my dissertation, and I had some complimentary remarks from my supervisor. During part of the dissertation, we focused on spiritual assessment tools like EPICCC, Hope, Spirit, acronym-based tools, which I found were used in America and Canada. They were quite lengthy in administration, and they had religious connotations, which in our society, like we talked about yesterday, increasingly secular society, where anything of a religious or spiritual matter seems to be off the menu. It seems to be, people have a reluctance to talk about it. They're quite prejudicial towards it, understandably so, given the history of mankind. I thought it was my conscience then. Thanks, I got one today. Religious. We're like over the past, decades, there's been a prejudice towards spirituality. There seems to be now, with what's been shared the last couple of days, a move towards bringing spirituality and, if people have religious beliefs, etc., into nursing. And then those tools were, like I said, American, and they weren't really appropriate for my dissertation. And Linda Ross suggested would I like to become involved with field trial in the Toolkit SAM. So I thought, yes, fantastic. And also the questions, the brevity of the tool is fantastic for busy nurses or occupational therapists, social workers, doctors, etc. And also there's no religious connotations, therefore it makes it more inclusive. During the course of my dissertation, I also found a study, a small study, in a questionnaire of over 300 members of the British Humanist Society. Over 50% of them said that spirituality or spiritual experience wasn't incompatible to being a humanist, which I thought was fascinating, and which this tool then can be really all-encompassing. With a spiritual assessment, there's evidence shows it leads to improved psychiatric outcomes, but also, which is really important, is when a practitioner takes an inventory, a spiritual assessment of a patient, it garners trust towards the practitioner, which in mental health is essential, because if for people to remain concordant with their medications or they have concerns about their medication, it's good to have a trusting relationship. But also, should they find themselves in crisis, they got someone to reach out to, and if they got a trusted nurse or whatever healthcare worker, they're able to do so. Excuse me. Right. Yeah, in practice, there's quite numerous examples I've come across and used in practice. I work on forensic wards, rehabilitation wards, acute mental health wards, and the answers, when I asked to use the tool in practice, some of the nurses I spoke to about spirituality, they sort of backed away from me as if I was trying to sell them PPI or whatever. And some of them said, oh, it's very interesting. And they left it there. So I didn't really push it, because being a student and also a bank worker, you're not as confident then as a qualified nurse. There were occasions where I was allowed to try this tool out. And some of the responses were as unique and varied as the people on the mental health wards. Some are, I can't really recount at the moment, but generally, a lot of people mentioned their families or children. The one occasion which I really, was remarkable really, on this forensic ward I work on, I'll say the name Tom because of anonymity. Over a period of a couple of months, I tried engaging with him, and it was quite difficult. Given that he'd been on a friend through the criminal justice system and the mental health system, he undoubtedly had built up barriers to people in authority, which could be police, social workers, judges, nurses, anyone other than a peer group. But also within a peer group, I should imagine, going through the criminal justice system and mental health system can be quite difficult. Over a period of time, I tried asking different questions and tried all various ways of connecting, and with no results. The one day in the kitchen, where we help support people to gain skills around cooking, etc. I mentioned I was a student as well as a bank worker, and could I ask him a couple of questions, and he agreed. When I asked him, what's the most important thing to you right now, he didn't miss a beat. He said his daughter, she's like 6-year-old, he told me her name. He lit up like a Christmas tree, where he hadn't before. And from that, I couldn't stop him talking. It was like turning the tap on, and every other word then generated more conversations. He told me about his journey through the criminal justice system, his behaviour, the reasons he came into the criminal justice system, his experiences in prison, being transferred to a mental health hospital, his dreams, hopes, aspirations for himself, his family and his daughter on being discharged from hospital. And it was fantastic. It was really, it just broke down the barriers. It was tremendous. And anything that can sort of break down barriers between people and, like was shared yesterday, connect like jigsaw pieces is fantastic. It was as though by him being his soul about what was most important to him, everything else was secondary. His record, his mental health, etc. It was wonderful to watch, wonderful to experience. Since then, I've used these questions on my family and my friends, and some of the responses have been quite good. And you can see people's cogs moving. Because if I say, what's the most important, like this morning coming down the train, everyone's glued to their phones. What's the most important thing to you right now? Oh, my Nokia, my Samsung. Should they find themselves in times of crisis, I would not think possibly that it would be Nokia. They would probably seek elsewhere for help. Last Friday, the team I'm in at the moment on placement. The head of the team is a social worker, a senior social worker, a lovely woman. And I had to talk to her about my competencies. And last going off, she said, oh, have a nice weekend. I said, well, actually, I'll probably have a very nervous weekend because I'm going to the EPICC conference on Monday and Tuesday, and I have to deliver a talk, which is outside my comfort zone. And she asked me what it was about, and I explained the 2Q SAM, 2 questions. So I asked her the question, what's the most important thing to you right now? And it stopped her in her tracks, and you could see her mind clanking. And not she got a clanky mind, but she turned around and she said, oh, my family. And I said, what could I do to help? And she thought again, and she said, if you could help me spend more time with my family. And I thought, oh, that's a nice answer. And we left at that. Over the preceding couple of hours, I reflected on what was said, and I thought, and I shared this with one of the fellas in class with me. If I was part of that team, possibly the team could try and pick up some of the slack to enable this lady to perhaps once a month pick up her granddaughter from primary school or nursery school. And in teams, I know it's outside nursing and patients, but within teams yourself, to sort of, if everyone knows what's important to you, I can help you, you can help me, and we can help each other. So it makes a more fluid and better environment, I feel. And because the questions are so non-medical, it's just wonderful. To conclude, the Toolkit SAM, 2 questions, spiritual assessment model, like was being developed by Linda Ross and Wilf McSherry, and like we said yesterday, buy one, get one free. It's fantastic. It's a really effective tool, I found. It's something, as a qualified nurse, perhaps I'll have more confidence to perhaps promote it. I'll certainly use it myself. And I think it's really valuable talking to people about their internal life, because it's all part of the same thing, I feel like it's been shared. It's a wonderful tool, excellent communication tool. And with what's been said, in light of what's been said, what's the most important thing to you right now? And what can we do to help? Thank you.